In the year 1902, at the tail end of the Second Boer War, British aristocrat Orlando, the Duke of Oxford, along with his wife Emily and their young son Conrad, find themselves in South Africa. The family is working with the British Red Cross, providing humanitarian aid at a British concentration camp. The experience is supposed to be one of healing and care, but it quickly takes a tragic turn. During their visit, the camp comes under a sniper attack, and in the midst of the chaos, Emily is critically injured by a bullet. As Emily lies dying in Orlando's arms, she makes him promise something that will alter the course of their lives forever. With her final breath, she forces Orlando to promise that he will never allow their son, Conrad, to see the horrors of war. The impact of this promise is profound. Orlando, devastated by the loss of his beloved wife, vows to protect Conrad from the cruelties of the world, shielding him from conflict at all costs. It's a decision that will weigh heavily on Orlando, pushing him toward unexpected paths. Fast forward 12 years. Orlando has built an entirely new life for himself, leaving the traumatic past behind. Raising his son Conrad in this peaceful environment, Orlando shields him from the harsh realities of the world. War is not the answer, he tells Conrad, who, like most young men, doesn't fully appreciate the weight of such words. It's almost like Orlando is trying to put a protective bubble around his son, but Conrad is growing restless. You can only dodge bullets for so long, he might have said if he were the rebellious type. But his impatience grows, and he starts questioning his father's way of thinking. Orlando has established a private spy network, working with his loyal servants, Shola, his butler, and Polly Wilkins, his maid. Together, they are not just household staff. They are employed by some of the most powerful and influential dignitaries in the world. Orlando has created a covert network of informants, using his resources to gather intelligence in the shadows, working behind the scenes to maintain peace and protect the innocent. However, his life is far from peaceful. Conrad, now a young man eager to prove himself, is determined to fight in the war that seems inevitable. But Orlando is resolute. Conrad is forbidden from joining the British Army. He doesn't just tell Conrad to stay home. He goes a step further, pulling strings with his powerful contacts, including Secretary of State for Warlord Kitchener, to ensure Conrad's name never appears on any recruitment list. Orlando's fears for his son's safety are overwhelming, and he does everything in his power to shield him from the harsh realities of war. One day, at Lord Kitchener's request, Orlando and Conrad accompany their old friends, Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria and his wife, Sophie, Duchess of Hohenberg, on a ride through Sarajevo. The atmosphere is tense as tensions rise across Europe, with the threat of war looming large. During their ride, an assassin named Gavrilo Princip throws a bomb at the Archduke's car, but Conrad manages to save Franz Ferdinand by pushing him out of the way. However, this moment of heroism is short-lived. Later that day, in a tragic twist of fate, Princip encounters the Archduke's entourage again and fatally shoots both Franz Ferdinand and Sophie, effectively igniting the powder keg that becomes World War I. Soon, Orlando's life is thrown into turmoil when he uncovers a dark conspiracy. A group of powerful elites, including the infamous Rasputin, are secretly pulling the strings of global events. These elites are manipulating world affairs for their own agenda, with the ultimate goal of starting World War. It's like they're playing a gigantic game of chess, and the pieces are the fate of nations. Orlando soon uncovers a deeper conspiracy behind the assassination, realizing that it was no random act of violence. It was orchestrated by a mysterious group known as the Flock. This group has a singular goal: to sow discord between the major empires of Europe, the Germans, the Russians, and the British. As Orlando investigates deeper, he realizes that this group, known as the Shepherd, is using assassination, betrayal, and other sinister means to reshape the world. It's a harsh wake-up call for Orlando, who had hoped that diplomacy and peaceful efforts could keep the world from tipping into chaos. But as he says to Shola, sometimes it's the small things that make the biggest difference. It's a realization that the actions we take, no matter how small, can have massive consequences, like the decision to start a covert mission to stop this global conspiracy. The leader of this shadowy organization is known only as the Shepherd, a man with a vision to reshape the world order. Among the operatives in his network is none other than the infamous Russian mystic Grigory Rasputin, who serves as a trusted advisor to Tsar Nicholas II of Russia. Rasputin's role in this conspiracy becomes even more sinister when he poisons Nicholas's young son, Alexei. The mystic then offers to cure the boy, but only if Nicholas promises to withdraw Russia from the war. This manipulation reveals just how far the Shepherd and his followers are willing to go to achieve their goals. Conrad learns of this nefarious plan through his cousin, Prince Felix Yusupov, who has direct ties to Rasputin. Realizing the magnitude of the situation, Conrad rushes to warn Lord Kitchener and his aide-de-camp, Major Max Morton. Knowing that Russia's withdrawal from the war would leave the Western Front vulnerable, Conrad's warning reaches Kitchener and he sets out to address the situation. However, disaster strikes when the ship carrying Kitchener and Major Morton, the HMS Hampshire, is torpedoed and sunk by a German submarine. Word of Kitchener's death sends shockwaves through Britain, leaving Orlando devastated. With his son still in harm's way, Orlando feels the weight of the promise he made to his wife. He must stop this war from claiming Conrad's life. Determined to end the threat, Orlando, along with Shola, Polly and Conrad sets out for Russia. Their mission is clear. They must kill Rasputin and stop the Shepherd's plans. The journey leads them to a lavish Christmas party hosted by Felix Yusupov, where they confront Rasputin in a brutal battle. Rasputin proves to be as strange and unpredictable as history suggests. In the end, Orlando and his team succeed in killing him, effectively removing one of the Shepherd's most dangerous pawns. However, the conspiracy doesn't end there. The Shepherd, now more desperate than ever to prevent the United States from entering the war, sends Erik Jan Hanusson, an advisor to Kaiser Wilhelm II, to execute a devious plot. Hanusson sends the infamous Zimmermann telegram, urging Mexico to invade the United States. In exchange for support in reclaiming lost territories, the British intelligence intercepts the message, and Polly, using her remarkable skills, deciphers it. However, President Woodrow Wilson refuses to take action, citing a lack of concrete proof. The Shepherd's influence continues to grow, and in a final desperate move, he recruits Vladimir Lenin to lead a revolution in Russia, overthrowing the Tsar and pulling the country out of the war. As a result, the Romanov family is tragically executed. Meanwhile, Conrad is officially commissioned into the Grenadier Guards, despite his father's protests. Orlando's worst fear comes true when King George V personally arranges for Conrad to be stationed in London. But Conrad, determined to contribute to the war effort, swaps places with a Scottish soldier named Archie Reed, taking on his identity and using the codename Lancelot to send his father a message. Disguised as Archie, Conrad volunteers for a perilous mission into no man's land, where he must retrieve vital intelligence from a wounded British agent. Upon returning, tragedy strikes. A fellow soldier, mistaking Conrad for a German spy, shoots him dead. Orlando is left heartbroken, having lost his son in the most brutal way possible.
Polly!
However, the intelligence Conrad gathered proves to be vital. The message he retrieved confirms the authenticity of the Zimmermann telegram. But despite this, Wilson still refuses to enter the war, citing insufficient evidence. Orlando soon discovers that the president has been blackmailed. The Shepherd's agent, Mata Hari, has seduced Wilson, and the Shepherd has obtained incriminating footage. Orlando resolves to retrieve the negatives of this footage. In a dramatic confrontation at the American embassy, Orlando defeats Mata Hari, finding a key clue, a cashmere scarf. Using this clue, Orlando tracks down its origin and uncovers the final pieces of the puzzle. With this new information, Orlando parachutes onto the mountaintop sanctuary of the Shepherd, where he uncovers the true identity of the man behind the conspiracy. It turns out that Major Max Morton, the very man who had faked his death and orchestrated the assassination of Kitchener, is the Shepherd. In a final intense battle, Orlando, with the help of Shola, defeats Morton and kills him. Polly recovers the incriminating film, which is sent to President Wilson. Upon receiving it, Wilson burns the film, and finally, the United States enters the war. After the war ends, Orlando sets up the Kingsman tailor shop as a front for his covert operations. Together with Shola, Polly, King George V, Archie, and the US ambassador to the UK, Orlando forms the original Kingsman. Each member is assigned a code name from the King Arthur legend, as a tribute to Conrad's heroic sacrifice. In a mid-credit scene, Eric Jan Hannesson, having taken over the Shepherd's organization, introduces Lenin to the assassin who killed the Romanovs.
Adolf Hitler.
The King's Man 2021 is a visually stunning and action-packed film that provides a deep dive into the origins of the Kingsman organization. It mixes historical fiction with a dash of over-the-top action, blending the real with the imagined in a way that creates a fresh, exciting prequel to the Kingsman series. The film's emotional depth, particularly the father-son relationship between Orlando and Conrad, adds an element of heart to the action. The film not only explores the origins of the Kingsman, but also highlights the struggles between idealism and the harsh realities of the world, making it an engaging and compelling addition to the Kingsman universe. The movie opens with a high-stakes mission in the Middle East. A group of elite soldiers, agents of the Kingsman Agency, are trying to rescue one of their own. The mission is a disaster. Galahad, Harry Hart, watches as his comrade is killed. But not before the man gives him a heartfelt message: "Look after my son." Harry's face hardens with resolve. Cut to Eggsy, now a young adult. He's stuck in a life of petty crime and dead-end jobs, living with his mom and her abusive boyfriend, Dean. Eggsy is just another guy trying to get by. Although he has a bit of a rebellious streak, he spends his time getting into trouble, from stealing cars to having run-ins with the police. He's not exactly a model citizen. You can't help but think, this guy is one bad decision away from a life sentence. But somehow you root for him. Then things take a turn when Eggsy gets arrested for stealing a car. Faced with the option of jail time, he remembers the number his late father left him before he died. He dials it, hoping for a way out. To his surprise, it's Harry Hart on the other end of the line. "I'm not some gang leader, Eggsy," Harry says. "This is Kingsman, and I'm offering you a chance to change your life." Eggsy doesn't believe him at first.
Manners maketh man.
But he's got nothing left to lose. So he agrees to meet with Harry, who then invites him to a secret event. Eggsy soon learns that Kingsman is an independent spy agency that operates with sophistication, class, and a strict code of conduct. They recruit the best of the best, and Harry wants to mentor Eggsy. However, there's a catch. Eggsy must pass a series of brutal tests to prove he belongs. The first challenge? A grueling boot camp designed to weed out the weak. Eggsy competes against recruits from wealthier families, who are more polished and refined, but Eggsy holds his own. From intelligence tests to hand-to-hand combat training, it's a wild ride of survival. And Eggsy proves that his grit is something the others just can't match. There's a particularly insane moment when Eggsy has to make it through a dangerous combat simulation with nothing but his wits, and he barely survives. He's like, "I didn't sign up for a near-death experience." But hey, that's Kingsman. But let's talk about Valentine. He's this tech mogul who's got some very unconventional ideas about saving the planet. To him, the only way to fix the world is by wiping out most of humanity. Yeah, pretty extreme. His method, a satellite-based system that sends out a signal, causing people to go completely nuts. He's like, "I'm a peaceful guy, really." But then drops the bomb that he's planning on killing billions of people. All he needs is the world's leaders to be on his side. And for that, he's got a fancy schmancy plan involving chaos, mind control, and, well, a lot of death. So basically, Valentine thinks the world is too messed up, and he's the only one with the solution. Spoiler alert, he's the villain. At this point, Eggsy is officially a KingsMan recruit, but things aren't all smooth sailing. He's still dealing with his rough past, especially with his mom's abusive boyfriend. You almost feel bad for Eggsy, but then, bam, he's thrust into his first real mission. He has to go up against Valentine, who's got a crazy plan to kill the world. Eggsy's like, I just wanted to be a spy, but sure. Let's save the world while we're at it. Eggsy and Harry start investigating Valentine's operation. They discover his secret hideout, which looks like the lair of a James Bond villain. But instead of a volcano or underwater base, it's a high-tech compound hidden deep in the woods. The tension rises as they learn about Valentine's plan, but they need more evidence to stop him. Here comes the insane church scene. Harry and pretending to be regular guys walk into a church where Valentine's master plan is about to unfold. As they walk into the pews, things take a dramatic turn. Valentine activates his signal, and suddenly, the entire church congregation turns into crazed, violent mobs. This isn't your average Sunday service. People start fighting, killing each other. And Harry's like, well, I guess I should have stayed home and watched Netflix. But instead, he goes full action hero, tossing his suit jacket and taking out bad guys left and right. It's like something out of a Tarantino movie, a beautiful mess. Meanwhile, Eggsy's watching in awe like, so this is what being a KingsMan is like.
Jeez.
But things go horribly wrong when Harry is shot in the head by Valentine. As Harry crumples to the floor, Eggsy is left to pick up the pieces. He's devastated, but it gives him the resolve to finish what Harry started. If anything, he's now got a personal vendetta against Valentine, which just makes the whole thing more intense. Eggsy, Merlin, another KingsMan agent, and Roxy, a fellow recruit, team up to stop Valentine's plan. There's some great teamwork here, with everyone playing their part to infiltrate Valentine's base and disable his satellite system. But it's no easy task. They have to fight their way through guards, avoid traps,
Eggsy, I'm in.
and somehow stop the countdown before it's too late. Eggsy's growth is clear throughout this part. He's no longer the street kid from London. He's becoming a true agent. And when the final showdown arrives, Eggsy faces off with Valentine's associate, Gazelle, who's got prosthetic legs that are sharp enough to slice through anything. A high-stakes battle to stop the signal from going global. Eggsy's like, okay, time to put the lessons into practice, and uses all the combat and spy skills he's learned. Who's wielding those deadly razor-sharp legs? It's a crazy fight where Eggsy has to outthink her, and in a split-second moment, he makes the move that gets her off his back. He then confronts Valentine, who thinks he's got the upper hand. But Eggsy is smarter now. He sabotages Valentine's satellite system, and just like that, the world is saved. As the movie wraps up, Eggsy is now a full-fledged KingsMan agent, walking into his new role with confidence. The once rough-and-tumble guy has transformed into a suave, well-dressed spy ready to take on whatever comes next. There's a cheeky moment where Eggsy takes on his mom and her abusive boyfriend, Dean, and you can tell he's feeling himself. He walks out, adjusting his suit like a true gentleman's spy.
Manners maketh man.
As the movie ends on a high note, the movie starts with Eggsy, now fully embraced as a KingsMan agent, looking more confident than ever. He's living the high life with his childhood sweetheart, Tilda, the Princess of Sweden. Manners maketh man, he mutters to himself, recalling the key lesson he learned in the first film. as he's now in a committed relationship with someone equally as extraordinary. But of course, things can't stay peaceful in the Kingsman world for too long. We all knew it. Chaos is just around the corner. And just like that, boom, the Kingsman headquarters is obliterated in a fiery missile strike. The mansion, the very symbol of the Kingsman organization, is reduced to rubble. Eggsy and Merlin, played by Mark Strong. Yes, it is, in fact, not Stanley Tucci, even though they both look eerily similar, are the only survivors of the attack. But who's behind it? Enter Poppy Adams, Julianne Moore, a drug lord who's as glamorously eccentric as she is terrifying. This is where the plot thickens. Poppy runs the Golden Circle, a massive drug empire that spans the globe. And she's got a big plan, one that'll put the entire world at risk. Poppy has engineered a virus that affects drug users, making them die in a grotesque, painful manner. And because she's just that over the top, she holds the antidote hostage, demanding that world leaders legalize all drugs or she'll release the virus to cause a global epidemic. I'm not a monster. I'm just ahead of the curve, Poppy says, with a twisted sense of pride. Eggsy and Merlin, devastated by the destruction of their beloved Kingsman headquarters, find themselves with nowhere to turn. But this is Kingsman, so of course there's a secret backup plan. Enter the Doomsday Protocol, a fail-safe setup in case the Kingsman organization was ever destroyed. The protocol is hidden in plain sight, in the form of a bottle of whiskey. While trying to piece together their next move, Merlin uncorks a bottle from the Kingsman's safe, only to discover that the whiskey isn't just a drink. It's the key to a new beginning. Inside the bottle is a secret map to the Statesman, and that's how Eggsy and Merlin uncover the existence of the Kingsman American counterpart. Statesman Agency. Eggsy, ever the quick thinker, says, "I guess I'll take it from here, mate."
It's all my fault.
When he realizes they're about to embark on a whole new mission with new allies. And so they make their way to the Statesman's distillery in Kentucky. If Kingsman's headquarters was all about sleek suits and tech gadgets, the Statesman HQ is about bourbon and cowboy hats. But when the going gets tough, they're there for each other. The Statesman agents are led by Champagne, Jeff Bridges. He is initially skeptical about the British duo, but once they see the scope of the threat, posed by Poppy Adams and her Golden Circle empire, they agree to join forces. Champagne says, "This is the Statesman. We work with the Kingsman." It's a turning point in the film, as Eggsy and Merlin realize that they aren't entirely alone in this fight. The Statesman team, including Whiskey, Pedro Pascal, Tequila, Channing Tatum, and Ginger, Halle Berry, bring their own style to the table. Now let's talk about how things really go south for Eggsy and Merlin. They're dealing with betrayal, impending global disaster, and the fact that they've got Poppy Adams to contend with. But something unexpected happens, something that should be impossible in a world of high-stakes action and dangerous enemies. Harry Hart, Colin Firth, the charismatic agent, who we thought was dead after his brutal shooting in the first film, is actually still alive. And no, it's not some magical plot device or weird comic book-style resurrection. He's been carefully nursed back to health by a friendly doctor. Harry's return is a huge turning point for Eggsy, who thought he lost his mentor for good.
Get down, Harry! Harry!
Upon discovering Harry is still alive, Eggsy is beyond shocked and exclaims, "Harry, you're alive?" This reunion is emotional, especially for Eggsy, who had looked up to Harry as a father figure. But just because Harry's back doesn't mean everything is suddenly okay. In fact, it's far from it. They still need to stop Poppy from executing her diabolical plan. Tequila, with his laid-back charm, says, "You know what they say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas." Of course, Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas. When your secret agent friends are all involved in world-saving missions, right? As Eggsy, Merlin, and the Statesman team gear up for their plan to take down Poppy, they quickly realize the magnitude of the situation. Poppy has world leaders under her control, and her antidote is the only hope for millions of people who are about to die from the virus. The stakes are high, and it's clear that time is running out. Eggsy is determined, saying, "I'll take it from here, mate," as he assumes control of a crucial part of the mission. No more hesitation, he's in it to win it. But just when they think they have the situation under control, plot twist. Tequila turns out to be a mole working for Poppy. The betrayal hits Eggsy and the team hard. After all, Tequila's a good agent, who would have guessed? He was secretly working for the bad guys? It's a classic villain move, and Eggsy's face says it all when he realizes what's happening. What the hell was that? Whiskey mutters in disbelief, echoing all of us watching in the audience. As if that's not enough, the team then has to infiltrate Poppy's lair. And when you think of a drug kingpin's hideout, this is a whole new level of weird. Picture a retro, 50s-themed diner tucked away in a jungle, complete with vintage Americana. Welcome to my world, gentlemen. I think you'll find it quite delightful. Poppy greets Eggsy and Merlin with a chilling smile, like she's about to serve you a meal at a roadside diner, but with a side of murder. Now let's get to the most heart-wrenching part of the film. While sneaking into Poppy's hideout, Eggsy accidentally steps on a landmine, and when all hope seems lost, Merlin uses a freezing spray to freeze the mine for a split second and pushes Eggsy's foot off and puts his foot on the mine. Now Merlin is for sure a goner, and Eggsy doesn't want to accept it. He asked for the spray, but Merlin said, "Split seconds over." In the final moment, Merlin heroically sacrifices himself, but not without taking a few guards with him to help. Eggsy and Harry. Merlin sings Country Roads and lures some guards to him before stepping off the mine and taking the guards with him. Before he dies, Merlin looks at Eggsy and says, "It's been an honor, son." It's a gut-wrenching moment in the movie. Merlin, who has been Eggsy's friend and mentor, willingly sacrifices himself to save the world. The whole scene is incredibly emotional, especially when Eggsy whispers, "I won't forget you, Merlin." Merlin's death is a pivotal moment in the film.
Country road.
And it's a reminder that even in a world filled with action and adventure, there are real sacrifices. With Merlin's sacrifice, Eggsy and Harry press on to finally confront Poppy. The final showdown in Poppy's lair is a full-on battle of wits and strength. Poppy is as unhinged as ever, but the KingsMan team is ready. "I do love a good villain monologue," Poppy says, clearly enjoying every second of her evil mastermind moment. However, Eggsy is not fazed. In their final confrontation, Eggsy says, "This is what's going to happen. You're going to try to kill me. I'm going to try to kill you. And the best man's going to win." The tension builds as Eggsy and Harry fight their way to Poppy, determined to end her reign of terror once and for all. Finally, Eggsy outsmarts Poppy and secures the antidote, saving millions of lives around the world. But just when things seem to calm down, Harry gets his own moment of closure. "Manners maketh man," Harry says with a knowing smile, a line that ties back to the core of the KingsMan philosophy. Eggsy, now a seasoned agent, has learned this lesson and fully embraces the role he's been given. The movie wraps up with Eggsy reuniting with Tilda, and they share a quiet, peaceful moment together. Eggsy has become the man he was always meant to be. He's no longer just a kid who stumbled into the world of espionage. He's a full-fledged KingsMan, ready to take on whatever the world throws at him next. But as always in the world of KingsMan, there's no time to relax. Eggsy's adventures are just beginning. The final shot leaves us with the sense that, while Poppy's reign is over, there are many more challenges and threats lurking on the horizon for the KingsMan team. As the credits roll, we can't help but wonder, what's next for Eggsy and his team? One thing's for sure, the world of espionage is full of surprises, and the KingsMan story is far from finished.
Hurry!